Alright, sorry about that. Stream crashed almost as soon as it started. Hopefully it'll it'll last more than a few minutes this time. So, just to recap, last time we did one of these streams, we were looking at building a custom yard, which we have now done. Now we're looking at resculpting and reshaping the fields and the roads that go around them. So, for those that missed it, because the stream didn't last very long, this is the current state of our fields around here. So you can see, obviously, that is just ploughed together. Multiple fields all ploughed together. No real resculpting done on that yet, but there will be going forward. Over here, we've got fields 1, 2, and 3. 3 I've actually chopped with a section here and put a pathway in to separate those two out. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this little bit of ground here yet. Might leave that as a field. Might put something in there. Haven't decided yet. Maybe some sheds. Maybe some combine storage. And then this bit here, this extension of the field, is currently sort of flattened and ready to be worked. I just need to remove some trees. And then around here, we've obviously joined 13 and 15 together. I've put in a custom path that runs up the side here and across here using the painting tool. That path will come down this way and then come down here and then rejoin up with this bit of road here, because we've deleted that access point through there by joining those two fields together. So I've got workers that are ploughing that field under for me, just so it's in a nice ploughed state. And then if we scooch over here, this is what I've done over here. So this is the edge of the original field. This is the original edge of field 1 just here. What I've done is I kind of marked out using concrete a border of the area that needs to be ploughed and joined. I've flattened out the ground in here as well. I've used the smoothing tool to try and keep it nice and level. I've removed some of the trees that were in here already. There were a couple up on the corner of that field just there that have been removed. I still need to remove these trees just here, as you can see. This one may stay here, but the rest of them, they're all going to get taken out and stumps ground out the way. And then this will all be ploughed in, and that'll be an extension to that field there. Over here, this is where the most significant changes have made. So we've got this whole area. I've tried to smooth the terrain out as best I can, because this was all quite hilly over here, and some very strange sort of raises and dips in the terrain. I've tried to smooth it out where I can, as best I can, without ripping up all of the plough work that I've already put in. So you can see the way the contours are with the lines, the plough furrow lines here. You can see it's not perfectly smooth, but I mean, no field ever is perfectly smooth, really, is it? So I don't mind there being a little bit of change and bump in there. It's not too extreme, which is the important thing. As long as it's not too extreme, that's all that counts. And then again, we've got a little bit of a dip and a bump just here, but this is now part of, or going to be part of field 1 just there. So a lot of resculpting, a lot of raising and lowering heights, and then smoothing the terrain to get it all into a kind of a blended gradient, as opposed to the kind of steep stepped gradient that was there initially. That has all now taken place, and it was also meant that I've had to kind of do a little bit of that on the edge of this field as well. So whereas this was all at a pretty standard height, it's now kind of been changed a little bit, so that it can blend in with the pathway, which can then blend in with the field, which then isn't a very steep drop down to the fields that are here. This part here was initially raised ground. As you can see, we had the field there, and then we had a pathway, and this area was quite elevated through this section here, and that's all been kind of smoothed to try and blend all these different terrain heights and different angles together into something more subtle, more suitable, and more workable. So let's take a quick look at the chat. We've got Lil Boy, Donny, Rasping Rabbit, Marcel, Davian, I think that is. Mike is in the chat as well. Dan, David, Bill's in there as well. Man Cave. Good to see you guys. How are you all doing? And Stevie's popped in as well. Good to see you as well, Stevie. So yeah, we're basically just going to be continuing to work on extending the ground around here and sorting this bit out. Now, while these guys are still running around ploughing away and cleaning up this big field for us over here, what I want to do is I want to put in our road down here to connect up to this bit here. So we've got access point to this road here. So this edge is a little bit rough, as you can see, and deliberately left it a little bit rough simply because I want to extend this custom pathway that I built here around the side, and I need to take this field in a bit so it's not too close to the train, because obviously when you're coming down here and you've got a bit of wide equipment and the train is coming, well, that's just a recipe for disaster. You can see how close the train line is, and there really isn't that much space there, so we will roll this field in just a little bit. So let's get a decent sized tool. I think there should do it. I'm going to round that corner off a little bit, and I need to be very careful as I do this that I don't eat into the field. So what I found is when you're pushing forward on the stick to move up, if your camera is centered pretty straight, then it will usually track in a straight line if you hold the stick pretty well. If you angle it to the side, then it can step out either direction quite easily. So it's always a good idea to angle it slightly that way, so that if you do step out, you're not cutting into the field. By the same token, if you want to protect the grass, then you angle into the field and then just recut the field afterwards. Now, this path isn't going to be wide enough like this, so I'm going to be stepping out ever so slightly. So if the cursor does move off target, it won't be cutting up the furrows that I'm putting in. So I just need to tweak the camera position slightly. You can also kind of do that with the position of the tile itself, and you'll see how the white cursor drifts across, and you can make your slight tweaks based on how much it's drifting as you're pushing forward on the stick. I do recommend, again, saving before you start doing a modification like this, turning off autosave and taking your time, being patient. Don't rush it. Of course, by doing it like this, I can also see how rough the ground is going to be, and if I'm going to need to start smoothing out some of that terrain as well, just so that it's not really rough and bumpy for any vehicles that are travelling down the side here. So just keeping a nice gradual pace as we paint over part of the field, just to create this access road down the side. It's stepping out, but that's fine. I'd rather it stepped out than stepped in. Just tweak the angle slightly. And when you are moving as well, I would suggest letting go of X every now and again, so that when you reposition, you're not automatically painting in. Because if you reposition too much, again, you're going to start automatically painting into the field. So take your finger off X when you're doing your reposition work like that. So you don't accidentally go in too far. There we go. So there's quite a bit of an elevation change just here. Now this is the edge of what was field 13. This whole section here is where the pathway was and the separation between the fields, and then field 15 actually starts about here. So you can see that there's quite a big gap between the fields. That's a lot of extra land that we've just added in by doing that. Now, what I want to do here is I want to change the texture. So I'm going to shrink the brush size down a bit. I don't want to have an access road that runs down the side here because we already have the access road right there. So I'm going to put in some grass texture on this one. And again, I want to be really careful doing this. Doesn't matter now if I step out into the grass texture because that's already there. But I certainly don't want to be stepping into my ploughed furrows. So again, I'm just taking it at a nice, steady, controlled speed. No need to whiz down here as fast as possible because it's not a race. It's just getting it done as easily and efficiently as possible. Reposition the cursor ever so slightly. There we go. And you can see the white targeting rim is starting ever so slowly to just drift to the right, which means that's the way it's going to step out. And there we go, it steps out. So again, just position there. And I'm quite happy with the way the camera is lined up at the moment because it is protecting me from going into the field. As long as I hold the stick in a steady direction and don't make a sudden jerk movement, then it will gradually track out like that. And it stops me from tracking into the field and undoing some of that plough work and custom cut work that I've already done. And there we go. So we have now just recut the edge of this field, get it nice and smooth, nice and straight all the way down, and we've got the start of an access road on this side as well. So we need to kind of finish that access road off a bit. So let's zoom in a bit, change back to our custom dirt texture. And now I need to be very careful. Now I need to tweak the camera settings ever so slightly so it steps inwards. So I don't take up more grass than I already am doing. Keep it nice and straight, nice and smooth. There we go. And that's quite a severe angle to join up with that area there. So we're going to do a bit of free-form painting here just to try and round this corner off a bit. Make that a much better, easier junction for traffic to turn into. Or farm traffic to turn. That seems to be about as much as I can do. There we go. And then I just want to put a little bit of grass in here to kind of cover up that gap that we've got. I could, in theory, just have a very thin, put a smallest tool that we can get, and just paint a thin dirt border as straight as possible this time. Try and get my camera centered on the tile so I can see which way it's going to step if I push forward. It's holding pretty steady. It's drifting ever so slightly to the right. Rotate the camera ever so slightly so it stays a bit more central. It's drifting back inwards a touch. Slight adjustment of the camera. Oops, bit of a wobble there. Nice and smooth, nice and steady. And I'll just take it to there for now. I may well put one along the bottom as well. Haven't quite decided yet, but for now, we'll just leave it like that. So we've got a very thin edge that runs down the side, a little bit of a grass border. So you can see that that has now changed this whole area quite dramatically. We do need to just clean up this edge over here as well. So let's just quickly do that. go. And again, I want to go to freeform now, just to smooth that off so it's not just a really obvious straight line corner, or not quite so obvious. Let's put a little bit of a curve on it. And there we go. We've got ourselves a custom access road. Are they going to get in each other's way? Yes, they are. Okay, let's jump into one of those. Turn the plough. Oh, maybe they would have just about got away with not touch. I think they probably would have just clipped each other. Just clean that line up a bit. There we go. And start ploughing. And there we go. That field is pretty much done. So, let's have another look at the chat. Donny says he's going to build on the huge ridge in the middle of the map across from the main farm and shop. So, by that... Oops, I just cancelled the worker, didn't I? Whoa, what on earth? Worker's gone crazy. My plough's upside down. Ah, dear. Okay, well, we'll leave that there. I think that's the least plough anyway. Oh, no, that's the one I own. That's my plough. So, rather than messing around with that, let's just grab this one. Just to finish that line off, this plough is leased. Let's get back to where we should be. And higher. There we go. So Donny says he's going to build on the ridge by the shop. So, do you mean this area up here, Donny? Up on this area up here? That'd be kind of cool. I'd love to see what you do. Make sure you send me some screenshots and pics of that. Mr. Water says he sees that the Deutz-Fahr 7 series has been added. Yeah, it's good to see some more Deutz-Fahr equipment getting put back into the game. I was incredibly disappointed to see that of all 4 of the Same Deutz-Fahr brands, only one single tractor had made it into the base game. But you know, we've since had the Series 7 and the Agrostar from Deutz-Fahr released, and the small Hurleyman as well. So maybe we'll see some of the other stuff added in as well. I really want to see the Same Fortis. Jean-Luc says, I've scuppered his plans. He was about to watch some Subnautica and has decided to come and join the stream instead. Well, why not both? Why not watch the Subnautica as soon as the stream finishes? This might not be a long one tonight. We'll see how it goes. David says it looks a bit fiddly. Yes, this can be a little bit fiddly trying to do this kind of terraforming. This is why it's always a good idea to do it in small stages and don't try and do too much between saves. Make sure you save your progress as you're making it. This is the next area that we're going to be working on just here. Why is it so red? This is the Estancia Lapacho ground map, so this is the standard soil colour for this particular map. You know, it's soil that is pretty typical in this region of the world. When will I be doing another Felsbrunn video? Well, I'm hoping to record some more Felsbrunn a little bit later this evening / this morning, so maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after instead. But Felsbrunn is coming back. I literally just took a couple of days off because I knew the patch was messing up for PS4 Pro users. I am a PS4 Pro user. I didn't want to have a drop in quality on an episode, so I wanted to wait until the hotfix was out and also give me a chance to play around with terraforming a little bit before I went back to recording. So have no fear, that series hasn't been cancelled. It's literally just had a few days off so I can catch up with the changes to Farming Sim. Golgo asks, is there a difference in dirt accumulation between a mud road and asphalt? Yes, you don't acquire dirt on asphalt. Sam says it looks like I've travelled to Mars. Yes, it is quite a red place, isn't it? So, this field is now pretty much finished. You know, we've got a little access road down the side here. I may possibly widen out this junction going forward, but it'll do for now. So we need to work on this area here. Now, obviously, it's already been flattened. It's already been kind of demarked with these concrete borders as to where the field's going to be extended to. First thing I need to do is get rid of these trees. So, let's head over here. Break out the trusty chainsaw. Unfortunately, none of the trees on this map are friendly in terms of being able to be cut down by a tree harvester, so you have to cut them all down by hand. And given how many of these trees are on this map, that's a lot of stuff to cut down. To start with, I'm just going to drag these out of the way, grind the stumps, and then I'll sell these off at the sawmill a little bit later. That one can stay for now. This is a big tree. There was a really big oak tree somewhere on the ground that I've already worked. I think it was pretty much up in the on the mini-map. You can see just above where the road bent around. It's now part of field 12. Sorry, field 13. But up in that corner, there was a really big oak tree, and I cut that down. I didn't clean it, didn't chop any limbs off. It was much bigger than this tree, much thicker than this tree, and I took it to the sawmill in complete tree form like this, and I got a whopping $84 for it. That was it. $84. Nothing at all. This tree just doesn't want to come down, does it? Let's see if I can pull the middle bit out. Nope. Yeah, it's going. There it is. It's on the way. Let's try headbutting the tree. Oosh. It still doesn't want to go down. There we go. It's finally kind of, sort of falling over. Alright, let's get these trees out of the way. Just push them clear for now. Grind the stumps out, and then we can start working on this little bit of land over here. Zoom in so we can see what we're doing. I do love how aggressive this new Holland wheel loader looks now. The old one looked a bit, I have to say, a bit naff. But the new, updated for 19 version of the New Holland wheel loader, it looks mighty. It really does look like it means business. It's amazing how much adding some black to a paint scheme really does make something look much more aggressive. And I know it's obviously got a slightly different wheel body shape as well, but yeah, it looks much more imposing, I think is the word that I'm looking for, compared to the previous version of the New Holland wheel loader. That's caught on the stump. Let's see if I can lift it over. Yep. Just push it out of the way of the stump. Again, I'm just going to push these clear for now. These can all be dealt with later. Assuming I can get untangled from it. There we go. What do I think of the lighting on 19? Says Stevie. I think on some maps it looks really good. And it also depends on the time of day as well. I have noticed from a lot of screenshots that get posted in the groups is that there's a constant kind of brown colour to the sky. Like that, but a little bit darker. I think it depends on the time of day, and this map is generally pretty blue. Pretty clear skies. The sun is setting now. It's 6 o'clock in the evening, or 7 o'clock in the evening on this map, so it's not quite as vivid as it was earlier, and it's a bit more washed out, but you can see there, some nice still blue sky over there, and that's generally how it is on this map. I haven't had a lot of time on this map, so I haven't seen what it looks like when it rains yet. I haven't seen it rain since they supposedly patched the rain falling through buildings either, so I don't know, but for the most part I like the new lighting engine. It certainly creates some much more realistic shadows, but it also creates some very dark contrasting images. I mean, look at that, you can barely pick out any detail at all on that side. On this side you can see everything absolutely clearly, and that's, I suppose, a realistic way of doing the lighting. It takes a while to adjust to it when we're so used to the same lighting engine for the last 2 versions of the game, really. But for the most part I like the change. Dragging these 2 big trees. These would be worth maybe $150 between the pair of them. Not much at all. Let's get these pushed off to the side, out the way. And I need to push the other one a little bit as well. I can't wait for the Robot Xylor to make an appearance on Farming Sim 19, because on this map, something like that, if you want to do a lot of tree cutting, it's going to be a godsend. You're either going to have to spend an eternity doing a lot of logging, or you'll be able, with the Xylor, you'll be able to just go in and make trees disappear as if by magic, and that would be much more preferable. Alright, let's have some of the other comments. Timon says, I've said that I've had problems with the camera on FS19. He plays on Xbox and has no trouble. It's not a problem with the camera as such, it's the camera collision system, which is built into the game. When you get too close to some things, it automatically repositions the camera, and not usually in a particularly favourable way either. There is a mod from Giants for Farming Sim 17 that came out not long after launch, which disables that and means the camera won't suddenly zoom in really quick and really close, and then zoom out again as soon as you move away from the obstruction, and it keeps the camera where you position it at all times. It means that you also end up seeing through the side of buildings sometimes, but that's what I was talking about. I want the disable camera collision mod to make its way, and I don't understand why Giants didn't make that part of the base game, given how much people complained about the cameras in 17 doing that until the mod came out, and how many people loved that mod. It's their mod, why wasn't it part of the base game? There's a toggleable option to have the ability to turn that on and off without needing to wait for it to be created, installed, etc. Just seems like a silly thing, a big oversight on Giant's part. Right, where are the rest of the stumps? There's another one. Let's grind that one out. What kind of crops will I be planting on this? Probably some sugar beets. Not sugar beet, sorry. Some soybean, some sugar cane, some cotton. You know, a bit of everything, I suppose. You know, maybe some sunflowers as well. I might not do that much of wheat and barley. Haven't really decided yet. I just want some big fields to work with. There's another stump. Donny says the trees are probably going to be worth more chipped. They're worth more if you actually take the time to just cut them into logs. But when you cut down a tree and you don't trim it into logs and you don't clean the branches off the side of it, it's worth hardly anything at all. We've seen that on Felsbrunn. I cut down a tree at full size, sold it in its entirety, and got, I think, about £1,000 for it. And then I sold a tree and cut it into 2 pieces, and I got around £2,000 for it, and then slightly more when I cut it into 3 pieces. You know, so you know you have to put the work in to clean the trees, but it's just time consuming. You know, it's not like on normal maps where you have the fir trees that you can just go up to with a tree harvester like a Scorpion King or the Komatsu harvester, and you can just cut those trees down and pre-cut them into certain size logs as much as you want. None of the trees on this map are compatible. These palm trees here, these are not compatible with a tree harvester, and there's loads of these everywhere, all the way across there to the store. That big open area of grassland over there is ideal for creating a custom field, but there's so many trees in the way, it would take you an eternity to get rid of all of them. Right. I think all the stumps are gone. Let's just have a quick check. It's quite tricky to tell sometimes. Looks good. Looks like they're all gone. So let's clear out that grass just to make sure. So this is going to be a field edge along here. So I want to very carefully kind of pull back along here. Should probably have used a slightly smaller tool for this, never mind. Let's do that here, make it a bit smaller. And there we go. That's the edge of my field that needs to be cut with the plough. So let's jump into one of our quad tracks and start cutting that extension. Stone Warrior says he's still having issues on field 23 with cotton bales floating. I was hoping that that would have been fixed as part of the patch. Have you updated to the patch since you last did cotton? Or, you know, have you done cotton since you updated? Because it may be fixed. Timon asks, do I know why the New Holland T6 Blue Power is only on PS4? Yeah, it's exclusive to PS4 in the same way that Xbox has the exclusive Valtra N in gold. We don't have that on PS4. That's exclusive to Xbox. And PC has an exclusive limited edition Mahindra. These are all, a little bonuses specific to that particular platform. So, as I say, Xbox has the gold voucher, PC has the limited edition Mahindra, and on PlayStation we have the Blue Power T6. Why can't I live stream in 1080? I can, but I choose not to because my internet is not the greatest. So if I do live stream at 1080, then it tends to get a lot jumpier. It tends to freeze a bit more. So just to keep the picture quality hopefully a little bit smoother, I run at 720p in standard frame rates, just to try and keep the image quality a bit more stable. F1 Scott Golf Gaming underneath says I'm on a PS4, maximum is 720p, 60 frames per second. On the standard PS4 that's true, on a Pro it is 1080. So on a Pro I can stream at 1080p at 60 frames per second, but as I say, because my internet isn't the greatest, I'm choosing not to run that high because it just causes issues. And I'm cutting over the desired width just here because we can use the paint tool to roll this back. The paint tool has become a brilliant way for us to resculpt the edges of our fields without having to use a roller. And the roller in 17 was great. It was something that could be lifted and lowered at will. It could be put on the front or the back of a vehicle. So you could combine it with a worker running a cultivator, for example, or a straight edge plow, whatever you wanted to do. The roller on 19 is awful, absolutely awful. It's so unwieldy. The second it goes down, it's down permanently until you disconnect and attach from the side and fold everything back up. You end up, the second you go slightly offline, you end up having to do all sorts of gymnastics to try and get back on target again. It's horrible. I hate the roller in 19. Now I can just use this to clean up the edge of my field. Like that. Which is much, much better. There we go. And then same again on this side. Let's get to the edge. There we go. Nice clean edge to our field. And all that excess cut is gone. So we have our border around there. All we need to do now is fill this bit in here. So let's get back into the quad track. Get in position. That's already double width, I think, but I'm going to put an extra width in anyway, just to make things a little bit easier. Need to quickly go into the garage and repair the plough, because we are slower than we should be. Not by much, but it all adds up. Let's put an extra width along the bottom as well, so we don't risk cutting outside the field again unnecessarily. Even though we can clean up with the paint tool, you know, that's a lot more expensive than using a roller. You know, money does eventually run out, and it's good to get in the habit of being clean and neat and tidy when doing work, rather so you minimise the amount of tidying up stuff you have to do afterwards. There we go. So it's going to be much easier for us to turn the plough. Well, I would say turn the plough, turn the direction of our ploughing this way now. And run up and down this area and fill this in. None of this was filled before. This was all a combination of grassland and the original road. So I'm actually going up where the original road used to be at this point right now. As you can see on the minimap, and now I'm starting to go into what was quite a raised hill area, and that's all been kind of smoothed and leveled as best I can using the raise and lower terrain features of the of the tool, and then smoothing out those kind of steps that I've created to get everything as blended and as smooth as I can. Of course, there's a lot of trees that have had to be cut down as well to do that, most of which have already gone. You see the last remnants of the trees that we just cut down a moment ago over there, or you will do when they come back into shot. But this is a big old extension. This is where field 1 ended, and you can see just how much we've added on to make it a really, really good use of that land that we had available to us. Golgo Farmer says patch 1.03 on PS4 has a new bug. Well, patch 1.03 is not the most up-to-date patch anymore. Patch 1.04 is the most up-to-date patch on PS4. So, you know, there was apparently a pixelating bug. That may well have been covered as part of the 1.04 update, which came out within, I think, 48 hours of the original patch going live. Is that a stump? It is. And we've got a bit of a stump there. Let's get rid of that. I thought there was one missing. One that we hadn't dealt with. Try and grind that out. There we go. Stump cleared. And now we can continue our ploughing and get this all nicely cleaned and joined. I do have plans for the edge of fields 4, 5 and 29 in a moment as well. That'll be the next thing that we take a look at. Kind of square that off a little bit. We will need to buy field 29 to do that. And then once it's done, I'm going to sell that field back. KJ Wiggins has popped in. How you doing, KJ? Fractured is in the chat as well. Fractured has been really, really helpful with some of the comments on my Subnautica playthrough. Give me lots of really good, useful advice without giving away anything in terms of the storyline. So thank you, Fractured, for that. Much appreciated. I will be going back to just one episode of Subnautica a day in the next day or two. I will also be launching my playthrough of the Great Britain and Ireland DLC for Railway Empire, so keep an eye out for that too. One thing I have found with the plows is that they tend to drag to the side. You don't stay on in a straight line very easily when you're ploughing. You tend to get pulled to the side one way or the other. So we get lined up in a straight line here. Let's see if we start getting dragged either way. It's not too bad actually this time. Well, now we're starting to drift in. Look, we're starting to go into the field. So let's straighten up again. You have to really constantly adjust when you're using these big plows, I've found. That will just get a worker to do it for you, which is generally easier. But on this stuff, obviously you have to kind of do it yourself when you're cutting unmarked ground like this. So already I'm getting pulled slightly to the left. And I'm just going to let it go with it because the previous pass pulled to the left as well. So I kind of need to go to the left a bit, but if I keep straightening up, I still keep getting pulled to the left. Am I going to get rid of the mountain in the middle of the map? What mountain in the middle of the map? Are you talking about that kind of ridged area, the other side of the road? No, but I will probably do some terraforming to create some fields in that. I won't get rid of it completely, but I will smooth it out a bit in places or change the elevation, to level things out a bit and turn it into workable ground. That's a way off yet, though. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I know Donny says he's got some plans to do that. Can I get it all in one go? No, not quite. Please don't try and hijack the chat and link to your own channel. That's a pretty classless thing to do there. If someone gives you a shout out to to go and check out a channel while they're streaming, then that's one thing. But just trying to steal someone's audience, that's not appreciated. Yeah, I may possibly need to get some moderators. I've never really had a regular stream schedule. I don't tend to stream very often at all, so it's never really been something that it's never really been something that I've been that interested in trying to do, because I don't have the internet for it normally. As it is, because I'm in a shared house, there's up to 5 people using the internet at any one time. Everyone else has buggered off for Christmas, so I'm on my own. So I've got full use of the bandwidth. So I'm going to try and do a fair bit of streaming over the next week or two. Alright, this field is done. So let's see. That's our original starting field layout. That's how this farm looked at first, and obviously that all one big field just there. This is how we look right now. So you can see we've got one great big field here. We've got one great big field here. We've now got a new road that runs all the way along here, all the way along the top. We've got a new road that runs down here between these fields. This huge section of ground has been added onto the edge of field 1. And then we've got a road that runs down to about here. Does it go all the way down? I can't remember. Let's have a look. Not quite, but I do want to stretch this out so that it is another access point for the farm. So let's look at doing that next. Let's look at widening this area out a bit. Let's go with a slightly larger tool. One step larger again. There we go. I need to be really careful now in positioning my camera. This thing steps out, it's going to make a big impression in wherever it cuts to. And that's why I didn't go one size higher, so that if it did step, it wouldn't go into the field. Oops, that was a bit clumsy. I can put that back in. Yeah, let's move that forward, and we're out of money. Okay, so we need to tap up the loan again. I have added a bit more money in to pay off some of the loan, because the loan was about 3 million by this time last night. So I've added in a bit more to kind of pay that off a bit while I make these modifications. Do I even have any money? I can't actually see on the camera. Yeah, I've got 150 grand. Why won't it let me? Oh, there we go. It is painting again. So again, I'm going to go with a freeform tool just to give a more rounded kind of run around the edge of the field. There we go. Is that going to be wide enough? I could take it down a little bit wider, I suppose. There we go. Did I cheat to start off with? For this particular map, yes, because this is eventually going to be, hopefully, an occasional multiplayer map, and I just wanted to just show just what you can kind of do with terraforming. This isn't going to be the start of a Let's Play map. This is literally just an experimental map, kind of a let's see what we can do kind of thing. So we've got our custom yard over here that we built and terraformed yesterday. We've got our custom cow area over here. Again, we did yesterday, and then today, after doing some work last night, once the stream ended, I've got these fields sort of reworked and recut, and the roads around them put in as well. So I suppose we could potentially, just put in tiny little specks of grass here and there if we wanted to, just to kind of break up the monotony of the road. We have options. I may well go in and kind of fine-tune that in the future, but for now I'm not going to bother with that. It is also getting a bit late in the day. The lighting is disappearing, which is going to make it hard to see things. So let's head over to the farmhouse. We'll accelerate time and then skip through the night, so we get some nice illumination. We need to accelerate time to 9 o'clock. Was it alone, or am I modding the money in? There is no way to mod the money in as such at the moment. There's no money box cheat for consoles like there was last time out. And while money mods appear on PC already, there isn't one as such for consoles. What you can do, though, is you can go into a multiplayer session, create multiple farms, save the game, and then come back into single player, and then all those farms' money get merged into one single pot. So on new farmer mode, you'll get about 800,000 for doing that, 700,000, 800,000, somewhere along those lines. And then for for other game modes, then you get more money, but you also start to accrue debt as well. So I think farm manager mode, you get 250 grand, but you also get, I think, like 100 grand in debt added to your account as well, or 500 grand and 250 added in debt, or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers. I'm not sure what it is for start from scratch. I think you just get 50 grand per 500 grand, no debt. That might be the best way to add in money fast. And of course, once you've selected a specific game mode, you can't change game mode. Of course, we do have the ability to change economic difficulty now from easy to normal to hard, no matter which game mode you're on. But if you start new farm, then you can't then become a farm manager. On when you take the file online, it stays as new farmer, and likewise, you can't do a start from scratch and then turn it into a new farm. You're locked into that game mode as soon as you select it. So, at start of a new day, and where are we? We're over here. What I want to do is I want to square off the edge of this field. We've got a lot of kind of land over here that isn't really being utilised, as you can see. So what I'm thinking is that we buy this field and we square this part of the field off straight down here like that, and then square it off across here like that. Now I don't own that particular bit of land, so I would have to buy that field, and then also to square this bit of land off just here and get rid of that to enable us to put a road in down there between the two fields. Now the only drawback to doing that is that I had planned initially to set up a new second farm somewhere over here at this location. There's some buildings here, and I thought that would be a good place to build a second yard, and then they could own that field and that field, that field, that field and that field, and they'd have a nice little area over there. Unfortunately, if I sell, if I try and buy that bit of land there and then cut it into this bit here, I can't then sell that back, and then, well, I could, but I think it would cause issues. This little bit of land, the extension here, wouldn't technically be owned by this land here, so it's a bit, I don't know if I'm going to actually do that or not. I need to think about that one. What we can do, though, is we can look at reworking this area over here a little bit. So we could look at maybe straightening out this edge here. That road come down at a straight angle and cut through that way. Square that corner off a bit more, and then we could drag this field down to that point there, and again just have that access road separating field 9 and field 13. So what do you guys think about that? Do you want to Do you want us to recut the corner here and then bring field 9 down? Let me know. Okay, so Killer Weasel has now been banned from the channel for continually posting, attempts to try and steal my audience. Very, very, very underhanded and sneaky, and I don't appreciate that at all. Right, let me just try and catch up with what's been going on in the chat. The games I play take so much time to play. Do I ever sleep? Asks David. Yes, sometimes. I have been known to sleep on occasion. I tend to be a bit of a night owl, so I generally don't tend to go to bed till here in the UK, sort of 5, 6 in the morning. Sometimes a little bit later than that. Last few days, I've been going to bed around about 8, 9 in the morning, and then sort of get up mid-afternoon and do my stuff from there. So I do sleep. It's just I don't sleep on traditional British hours, more on sort of American hours, really. KJ says that he's having a blast with the new landscaping tool. Really helps you make the map your own. Agreed. I mean, that's the whole thing that we're doing with this stream here. You can see how we're recutting and reshaping fields and extending the size of them, making them bigger and better, joining them together, putting new custom roads in. Really does change the landscape quite significantly. Donny was asking, why don't I sleep in game? We've already done that, so that's obviously a comment I didn't see at the time. Where are we? Weasel by name, weasel by nature, says Honey Badger. Agreed, yes. I like that comment a lot. That's brilliant. Alicard says, curve it off, don't make it straight because not all fields are 100% straight. No, I know, but just in terms of ease of working, this is not exactly what we'd call an ultra-realistic map, is it? I mean, the way things are spaced out, there's so much unused land that no, this isn't a particularly realistic realization of this particular region. With this map, I'm kind of open to doing whatever I feel like in terms of the field shapes. Not sticking to traditional kind of rounded edges and stuff, and having lots of square fields, which are easy for AI and easy for people in general. But for maps like something by Oxygen David, for example, with the realistic sized and shaped fields, I wouldn't dream of messing around too much with the field shapes and structures on those. You play those maps because you want that realistic experience. Am I a student or a full-time YouTuber? Neither. I'm a 40-year-old unemployed man with health issues that just games to keep my sanity and pass the time, and I like to share some of my gaming experiences with you guys. So I do put stuff up on YouTube a lot, but I don't make any money off it. I don't monetize my content. It's just there for you guys to enjoy. Brian says it's about time we got these kind of tools on console. Yeah, I mean, one of the mods that I was so envious that we didn't have last time out was the roller pack that came out last year for Farming Sim 17 that allowed someone to use the roller to put down different sort of paint schemes like the paint tool does now. You know, we could put down dirt roads, or you could put down concrete or grass, whatever you wanted to do. You had different road textures available and different rollers to do that, or at least you could, one roller you could just change the paint option. I was so envious of that because I wanted to be able to create custom roads around my fields. You know, when I'd cut custom fields, and we couldn't do that. Now we can with this tool. And it's not just painting, you know, we can actually resculpt the size and angle of the terrain as well. It really is an incredible bit of kit, the new terraforming tool. Let's see if we can get rid of this tree. Trees are just as awkward to deal with as they were in 17, so some things change, some things never change. But here you'll see just how little money this tree is worth. This is a big tree, quite thick trunk, lots and lots of branches on it. Hasn't been cleaned anyway. I've actually grabbed the second tree as well, I think, as part of this. And I'm going to go and drop this in the sawmill, and you'll see just how little money these trees are worth. Put the trees in the swimming pool. No, because I plan to, like I say, I do plan to use this map. You know, I don't want to have just random trees floating around for no reason. We'll get rid of them. We'll clear them off properly. But I'm not going to do major deforestation on this map until we get the Rabot Xylor again. Or something similar. PC had something in 15, which was also then carried across to 17, which was the Brucks, which were basically you go up to a tree and just, you know, kind of touch it, and instantly it turned it into wood chips. So you went in with the Brucks and a trailer, like a 40,000 litre trailer, and boom, single tree, and you had like half a trailer full of wood chips. It'd be nice to see if we'd ever get that. I somehow doubt we will, but that second tree's causing a wedge. I'll have to leave it and come back for that second one. It's like I'm carrying a giant piece of broccoli. This is what happens when you don't eat your greens. Weave our way through this. I mean, I would love to do something with this land over here, but it's just littered with trees. Way too many to cut down manually. Find the icon. There it is. A whopping 48 euros for that tree. Big, big, big money. That shows you the importance of cleaning and cutting your trees when you actually do logging. You sell them as a complete tree, you get nothing. I mean, this is hard economic difficulty, so prices would never be great anyway, but 48 euros is nothing. It's absolute pittance. Without says really hopes that Bullet Bill starts to enjoy Farming Sim 19. Doesn't seem to like what they've done so far. I know he has a few complaints. For the most part, he's happy with the mapping system, but there are some issues with textures that he's not too thrilled with. I don't know if they've made changes. I mean, the Giants editor, as far as I know, is still kind of in beta stage. It's not 100% finished. I think they're still making tweaks and changes to it, so I'm pretty sure that it will continue to evolve over the next few months. I do know that something in on my shoe too is loving the new map editor. He has finished his first map, Tombstone, which has been submitted to testing and will be hopefully available on consoles at the same time as PC. Probably won't go live till the new year, I would imagine now, but Tombstone is on the way. A creative mode you could use before starting a map would be a nice feature, says Honey Badger. Yeah, well, you can kind of do that. Well, once you get the money mod, you'll be able to do that. And once we get a money box mod and we can just mod in a ton of money, then yeah, you could go in and just edit the map as much as you want, and then once you're happy with it, then you could start buying your equipment and stuff. That's kind of what I'm doing with this. I'm just messing around with the map, changing field shapes and building that custom yard as much as I can, and then... Oh, Christ. Wow, I nearly got flattened by the train. Woo. Always look both ways before crossing the road and watch out for random trains. Wow, that was close. That was really close. I've completely forgot what I was saying now. No, I can't remember what I was saying. That train just snapped me out my train of thought, if you pardon the pun, snapped me out of my train of thought completely. I have no idea what I was saying just a few moments ago. All I can think about is just how close I was to getting hit by that train. Intro to a train sim let's play. Maybe. Someone did actually mention earlier in the chat, I saw the comment but I didn't see who made the comment. Yes, we've got new DLC coming for Train Sim World in the new year as well. We've got a new route, the Transpennine route is coming on the 15th of January, and before that, a week before that, on the 8th of January, the new Class 33 DLC. It's a loco extension rather than a full route extension. It's an add-on for the West Somerset Railway add-on, so it'll add in a new engine and some new services, and I think a new scenario or two as well. But you do need to have the West Somerset Railway expansion already to be able to use the Class 33, because it will only be available on that route. And that comes out on the 8th. I have no idea on the pricing of that yet. I'm sure if you looked on Steam, because it is already out on PC, it would give you a good idea as to roughly how much we can expect, because I think the pricing between PC and console has been the same for Train Sim World. And I am watching for the train this time. No sign of it. We got €6 for that tree. A mighty €6. Wow, I am in the money. You know, I think we'll leave that there for now. It's just not worth it, is it? So, let's go work on the fields over here. Let's take a plough over. There goes the train up the hill. Let's take a trip over this way. We're going to need to buy the new field. Oh, of course there are trees in the way. Of course there are. So let's stop about here. We're going to have to remove those trees, so I'm going to need this after all. I was talking about custom maps, says Adrian. Yeah, well, that was it. Yeah, I kind of remember what I was saying now. Yeah, you can, once we get the money mod, you can come in, mod in a ton of money, really set the map up as how you want it. And when you're happy with it, then you can get your equipment in, and then you can start playing on it. It's a slow process, you know, to do a lot of terraforming and a lot of painting. But, you know, I think depending on what changes you want to make, it could be very rewarding. I mean, look at the size of this field here. This is now perfect for some of the really large equipment that we have, like the Seedhawk, for example, or the Hatson-Bishler Terminator. Either of those would be perfectly at home on this field here. We've still got some large fields over here as well for other bits of big equipment. We've got some smaller fields for the smaller equipment as well. And we're using the space a little bit better. Just noticed there's not a clean edge along here. I seem to have lost a little bit along here. I'll have to look into tidying that up a little bit later. I might widen it a touch more as well, actually. It's quite a big, wide gap through here. It might be a little bit too wide. I might shrink that down a touch. Well, let's get rid of these two trees over here. You can see there's a little bit of a bumpiness to the ground over here as well. A little bit kind of a steep little bank just here. We're going to smooth and flatten that out a bit. At least it's hard to show you when there's plants in the way, but yeah, we'll smooth that out with the smoothing tool before we actually start cutting the ground. I can't see a damn thing with all these weeds. Oh, I don't own the land yet, do I? So let's buy that tranche of land. And luckily, all these modifications... Yeah, I'm looking at this. Because that's a natural break in the land, we won't curve that, straighten that square edge out. We'll leave that as a separate plot of land. So we'll extend it, and then once it's done, we'll sell it back. I need to buy it, don't I? How much is it? 133 is my balance. 355, essentially, so I need to take out more money. Any challenges that I want to incorporate into the future Let's Plays other than Fellsrun? I've already turned that into a pay your debt challenge. Yeah, someone called it today in Debt Simulator 19 on one of my more recent episodes. Because we do have a very, very big loan on that. We'll pay it off. We'll get it paid off. But I don't know. I mean, I'm waiting for some good maps to come out. Because, I mean, this map's okay. But I wouldn't want to do a long Let's Play on it, I don't think. Ravenport, I'm not really a big fan of Ravenport. There's too much waste on that map that you can't really do anything with. Too many extreme hills as well. It will cost you a fortune and take an eternity to do any real terraforming on that map. Without giving up, a lot of field space. It's just, it's not worth it in my opinion. Fellsrun plays really well. I like Fellsrun, but we're already on Fellsrun, so I'm waiting for a new map to come out that's going to grab my attention and spark my interest, and that'll be my first proper Let's Play, I think. I'm going to wait for Seasons as well to go like full-on realism simulation like we did with Lone Oak, where we really try and tell a proper storyline throughout the entire series. Because I really miss Seasons. That was just so important for storytelling. Without that, there's so much lacking from the storytelling element. There's only so much you can do with fields that are grown in 48 hours. Hello, Brendan. Now please stop spamming the chat with hi. Or I will put you in timeout. Rasping Rabbit says Oxygen David is working on new stuff now, he thinks. Marwell Manor is done. It's finished. It's being tested by the Frontier testing team with a plan to submit it after Christmas to Giants. So that's a New Year map. I'm imagining that we will probably see the same kind of attempt at a multi-platform release that we usually see, so out on PC and console at the same time. Obviously with Bill's maps and David's maps, because they are so heavily detailed, it makes converting those to consoles more complicated, and it generally means that there's a long time going through testing for consoles, so we may well see those maps out on PC first and then consoles a few weeks later. But I'm really excited to see what Marwell Manor looks like. There is a stump in there somewhere, I promise you. There we go, it's gone now. Let's cut the next tree down if I can find it. Where is it? There it is. It's just... Try and hunt the tree. Find a point to cut it. There we go. I can't even see where the skid steer is. I can hear it. I can't see it. Oh, there it is. There's the skid steer. Oh, these bushes are so high. There's the stump. It's ridiculous trying to see if I've got the stump down. Can't see a damn thing. The lights don't really help that much. Just cutting it in stages as well. I think there's still a little bit of stump left. Yeah, there is. There's still some stump left. There we go. Finally got rid of the stump. Let's get out of this forest of bushes over here where we can't see a thing. Just push these trees together if we can. Oh, that skid steer's engine is loud. There you go, let's just push these out of the way. There's something else in the way. This, I think, has a stump. I had a collision a moment ago. It might be that. I'll have to keep an eye out for that. A little palm plant. Yes, I've seen that Arthur is playing Tombstone. I haven't actually had the chance to watch it yet. I've been a little bit too busy to sit down and actually do much watching of YouTube recently. But I do want to try and check that out, get a feel for the map, see if it is something that I might possibly be working on myself when it comes out. Let's clear the area, and then we're going to get rid of all these shrubs by smoothing the land out a bit, make it a bit more suitable for field farming. Right, into the landscaping tool. Where are we? Wrong side of the field. This is where we need to be. So, we want to stretch this field out. We can also widen it a bit as well. So let's look at widening it. I'm going to use a different texture. Actually, you can see there. It's a bit of a step on the field already, just there. So let's go with the gravel texture again. so we can see nice and clearly where this field's going to end up in terms of width, and we'll also be able to see the slope a bit better, and hopefully some of the terraforming changes as well. It's a bit of a blob just there, a bit of a bump there by the look of it. There we go. Let's take a look on the other side. There's loads of space all the way over here, look, as well. We don't own this land, though. Where does the land ownership stop? About here. Let's take a look at that on the map. So that chunk of land is like that. Okay, so yeah, we can widen the field a bit over there as well. If we say about here. There we go, got a nice clean, clear run. And we want to take this down. Again, I don't want to get too close to the railway tracks. But we have got space to come down a bit more. Oops, I stepped out a bit too much there. Come down to about here, I think. Paint this across, and this is going to be the border of where we're going to make our new field. So I need to come down here now and stretch this forward. We can clean that up with the grass texture and a smaller application. There we go. So let's try and smooth this land out a bit because it's a bit rough. So we're going to sculpting. Let's go with a bigger tool. And let's just start to smooth this terrain out a bit so it's not quite so rough and bumpy. And there we can see it has identified something with a collision, that plant there. Hopefully I can actually get rid of that. Otherwise I've made a bit of a mistake in doing this here. Let's see, zoom in a bit. Let's see if we can see the ground moving and deforming as we move the tool. Again, we can go a little bit smaller and go along here a bit better. And you can see how that texture is changing a little bit to smooth out that little bit of a hill over there. It just steps down in little bits. Let's go with a rounder tool as well. You can just see little bits of change in the shape of the field. It just smooths out that ground a little bit better, so it's not so so rough and bumpy. I'll try and move slowly over this area as it clears it and cleans it, and you should hopefully through the grass or through the green circle be able to see the height changing and smoothing out a little bit. And it doesn't matter that we're ripping up all this grass because this is all going to be ploughed over, but we want to be we don't want really nasty divots in the field because it stops the equipment from working properly. It stops the seeders from planting, it stops the ploughs from ploughing. We want to get rid of all of those obstructions that we're going to get as best we can. Like that. And I do suggest, or I do recommend that, when you do want to cut a custom field, that if you are looking to expand into some ground like this that's not a pre-designated field, that's like a grass area, I do recommend, if you're going to plough it all up, that you do this and you smooth it out a bit first, just so it's not so rough on your equipment, and it doesn't cause your ploughs and your seeders and cultivators to skip chunks of the field. Again, we can go a little bit smaller just for the edges where we need to, for the detail bits. Then go bigger again to have more of a generalized impact. Go. It's not an instant process either, so if you move your tool over too fast, then it won't make all of the necessary adjustments. It'll only do partial changes. So don't just whiz your tool through like that and expect it to be absolutely perfect, because it won't be. You can see, even though we've kind of moved over this area a little bit already, you will see little bits that do still need to be adjusted, depending on the size of your tool, and depending on how big an area you're trying to smooth out. It should be okay near the fields themselves, but in these big open expanses like this is where you're going to get those rougher areas. Alright, Scott and Brandon, please, both of you, just calm it down in the chat, because you're starting to annoy everybody else now. Right, I'm going to have a look through the chat and see what some of you guys have been up to. William says, the train collision would have been a good cause to rename this map to Tombstone. Yes, I can see that. What's my favourite American map? Of the ones that I've played so far... Oops, that's the wrong button. But it gives you a chance to see the smoothing in action in a bit better detail. You can see how it reshapes the land and kind of levels it out a bit. It doesn't make it flat, it tries to blend it into a much more subtle gradient. So it'll raise and lower in various different places to achieve that effect. In some places it'll raise the terrain, in other places it'll lower it. Will cost you a fair bit of money though. So you can see we're down to just 12,000 euros, which is quite expensive. Yeah, I think my favourite American map that I've played is probably Lone Oak. I mean, it was just so beautifully made. It looked fantastic and it played well as well. And more often than not, we've tended to see on consoles outside of the Frontier maps, we've tended to see that maps either look really good or play really well, and not so much both. The red kindness maps are kind of a little bit of an in-between point, because they look and play well, but they also do suffer in a fair few places on those maps from quite bad lag as well. So I had a lot of fun with Hude Ranch. I hated the name, but I really enjoyed the map. And I spent quite a lot of time playing on that map. But in visually, while it looked good, it wasn't a patch on Lone Oak. Lone Oak was just something special. Right, where is the skid steer? Let's try and get rid of that little weird blob thing. A little palm plant. Lewis Johnson says, gutted that he's missed an hour of the stream already. The notifications didn't work. Yeah, unfortunately, YouTube's notification system is terrible, and it kind of makes up his own mind as to whether or not it wants to work. I mean, you can make sure you click on the bell to try and turn on all notifications, and that way you should hopefully get the notifications when they go live, but it doesn't always work. It's temperamental. And this was a kind of a spur-of-the-moment decision to stream as well. I hadn't planned it initially. Otherwise, I would have sent out warning on the channel an hour or two before it went live. There we go. Is there still something left? Or is that just a divot in the ground? It might just be a divot in the ground. You can smooth out ground with vehicles underneath it as well, which can look quite odd. So you can end up with a vehicle, once you've finished making your ground modifications, that appears to be floating. But as soon as you go near it or get in it, then it will just immediately drop back to the ground again. Right, that looks smoother and better again. I think we're ready to start cutting up this section. Honey Badger says he thinks the Tombstone map is named after the town Tombstone, where the shootout at the OK Corral was. Maybe, but Shu doesn't name his maps with any real rhyme or reason. He just comes up with a name. Sometimes he doesn't even come up with a name. Hude Ranch was not his choice. The map was originally called Map with No Name, and someone on the Giants forums said Hude Ranch, and for whatever reason, that idea in particular really tickled his fancy, and so he decided to call it Hude Ranch. I have no idea why. I think it's a horrible name myself, but that's what he went with. So it's possible that it's named after the Tombstone town from the film franchise, but I doubt it. I seriously doubt it's a tribute to the OK Corral. When is the next Fells run out? In the next day or two, maybe tomorrow. More likely the day after. I took a small break from recording while I was waiting for the patch and then the hotfix for the patch to come out, to give me a chance to let the system settle down again and have a chance to do this and play about with terraforming. And kind of play about with terraforming with you guys as well, so you can see some of the things that you can do. And I just didn't have time to sit and spend 3 hours recording a single episode of Fellsbrunn Sometimes it takes more than 3 hours. Sometimes it can take 4 or 5 hours to record an episode, and then there's all the editing on top of that as well. And while Subnautica is nice and easy, it's just plug and play, sit down, record, play for an hour, and that's it. Same with Railway Empire. Those episodes are easy to record, easy to edit. Farming simulator videos that I put out, involve hours of gameplay, painstakingly cut together and edited and rendered, and then re-rendered with overlays. And yeah, it takes too long to just knock those out in the spur of the moment. So I'm going to try and get some more recording done, maybe after this stream is done, but certainly tomorrow I'll be doing some recording. And so if there isn't an episode tomorrow, there should be one the day after. Right, let's turn off create fields for a moment. Turn the plough. Just want to create the straight edge along here. Now Stevie's off. Take it easy, Stevie. When am I and CDP and Daggerwin going to do a multiplayer stream together? Well, I don't think I'm ever going to do anything with CDP. We have very different gaming philosophies in the way that we like to put our content out. So I don't think any kind of cooperative series would work. Maybe the odd live stream here and there, possibly, who knows? That's kind of up to him. As far as getting Daggerwin involved, never going to happen, because Daggerwin is a PC player and CDP and I are both console players. So while there's a chance that we could do something, getting Daggerwin involved in that isn't going to happen, because he is a PC player, not a PS4 player. Adam says, "You mean I don't put my videos out immediately before I don't know what I'm doing?" No, I like to familiarise myself with things before I put something out. It's why whenever I do a map tour, I always spend about an hour, sometimes longer, exploring the map, checking some things out, and trying to get a good feel of the map and where certain things are and how certain things work. It doesn't always mean that I'm going to know everything about a map. Especially with a map by Alien Jim, he puts so much extra stuff into his map that we're not used to seeing that it's impossible to predict exactly everything if you don't have insider knowledge. But I do try to make sure that all the information I present is as accurate as possible, and the best way to do that is to get hands-on with something and try it out and experiment. And when you know how something works, then you can start putting information about it out there. Otherwise you're just guessing and speculating, and it doesn't help anybody. There's a lot of love in the chat for Upper Lusatia right now. That was a great little map. I do enjoy the stuff that Red Kindness has put out. Woodshire was a great little map. Altenstein was brilliant. Loved Altenstein. And Upper Lusatia was a nice little map as well. So, big fan of his work. Just a shame that, unfortunately, it tends to be a little laggy on some of those maps on console. Baltic Sea was another great map that he did as well. at White Sheep Modding. I have absolutely no idea who you are. I'm sorry. I know who Black Sheep Modding are. I know who White Bull Modding are. I don't know who White Sheep Modding are. I haven't seen you release anything for consoles in the past on FS17. But if you are releasing stuff for 19, then that'll be great for consoles. Yeah, if you'd care to elaborate in the chat a bit, that'd be helpful. Honey Badger says he thinks Alien Jim's working on converting Mercury Farms. I've heard that as well. Haven't spoken to Alien Jim, so I don't know for definite, but I'm pretty sure that that map is being converted. I'm not sure about any of his other maps. I think there is another map that might be being worked on by Alien Jim. We do know that Black Sheep are working on Old Stream. That will be coming out at some point. I have no idea how far along they are with that. We know about Tombstone. We know about Marwell Manor from Oxygen David. I know Bullet Bill is working on a new Cobra, which is a complete rebuild of the map, a fresh build rather than a patching of the original version. It's going to be built from scratch. Really excited to see that because I love the original Cobra map. And I'm sure there was another map I'd seen that was on its way as well, and I can't remember what that is now. I think White Bull Modding are looking at getting Hill of Slovenia up on consoles soon for 19 as well. That was the second map that they released for consoles on 17. Old Slovenian Farm was the first one. Alright, now I want to try and stay as straight as I can along here. And what I'm going to do with this one is, because we're going to have a little bit of concrete showing, is I'm actually going to take a slight bit off the edge of the field with the grass tool for the grassy bits, and then for that, you know, where applicable, we might put some dirt road in there as well, but I don't really want to go wider than the edge of the concrete. I want to stay just inside it if I can, but the plough is pulling me off course a lot. I'm having to constantly adjust. Doing the edge is always the hardest part when you're trying to keep a straight line and you've got no guide points or reference points. Adam says you've got to cut down about 500 trees on Red Kindness maps and then they're perfect. Yeah, you've got to do a lot of deforesting to remove some of that lag. Woodshire was notoriously bad. Every time you drove alongside one of the forests down the road, you instantly got hit with really bad lag patches. Sometimes it's just unavoidable. Bullet Bill has stated that, you know, try as he might, he just couldn't get rid of the lag for whatever reason on West Coast. He tried his best, he tried everything he could think of, but he just couldn't clear the lag that was affecting certain parts of that map. So that map isn't going to make its way over to 19. That's already been stated by him, unless he has a change of mind. But, you know, last time he talked about West Coast, he had no plans to convert that one, simply because it was so laggy. And he just couldn't clear it, whatever he tried to do. Have I just flipped the plough upside down again? No, I haven't. I thought I had. There we go. Right. I'm going to just set the worker loose, ploughing the actual original field for a moment while I try and catch up on the chat, because it's been a little while since I have a look in. Nork says he can't wait to see my truck driver Let's Play. I can't wait for the game to come out. It was supposed to come out this year. That's obviously not happening now. Still completely tight-lipped from Tedesco. I've even asked them, and they haven't responded to that yet. They don't want to give any kind of hint of a release date until they're ready to release it, essentially. So, Real Farm came out last year, and it was announced and released very quickly apart. You know, they announced it, I think, in September, and it came out in October. Really did kind of just sneak under the radar and then just appeared from nowhere, and then boom, was out, and it wasn't very good at all. It was pretty awful. I'm hopeful that Truck Driver, which has got more interest and a wider target audience, I think, than Real Farm has, that game seems to have gone through a lot of beta testing. I think it might still be in beta test on PC. I'm not sure, but a lot of people have been very positive in their feedback from those who've played the beta on PC. That's encouraging, and if they're deliberately, delaying the game so that it can come out in a much better state than Real Farm came out in, again, that's a good thing. Alicard Bond says, hopefully the Hill of Slovenia doesn't have the problems it had on 17. Yeah, I was a bit frustrated by the lack of attention paid to that map by White Bull, I have to say. It was very clear that the animal dealership, had initially had been moved from where it was initially, where it was up by the store, because it just kind of plonked in this unfinished area when the map was released. And then even when it was patched, all the, it still looked exactly the same. I think it was just something that got changed. And then the map got taken down because it was violating the modding rules on Giants Mod Hub by using other modders' assets without asking for permission. And the modder spotted those assets, complained to Giants, and Giants took it off the Mod Hub. And you could still play it on PC. You could just download it direct from somewhere else instead, but it was taken off the Mod Hub for those reasons. But the coding for the animal dialogue box was still at the store. So you had this animal dealership way out in the middle of nowhere on the edge of the map in this big unfinished concrete blob. And you couldn't interact with it at all because the coding was hidden. Still just on the tarmac. You had to find the right spot and have the help window up to find it, where it was a completely unmarked area up next to the store at the opposite side of the map, where the controls for the animal dialogue box were to actually get animals from the dealership. It was a little bit sloppy, so hopefully those will be addressed and won't be an issue for 19 if it comes out on consoles for 19. I mean, the quality of the map in terms of its visual look was a massive improvement on the first map, which wasn't, to a particularly good standard at all. A lot of very badly placed things, stuff floating in midair. But the second map was visually a lot better, a lot tighter. Just, violated some of Giants' terms and services, unfortunately. Rasping Rabbit says, guess I don't want that crop. No, I don't want any of the crops at the moment. I'm just setting the fields. I'm getting them all shaped and cut and sized and I'm just prepping the map. With the terraforming tools, I'm not looking to start farming on this for a little while yet. I just want to get it all kind of worked and shaped and change the shapes and sizes of the fields so that they're bigger and you can do more with them. When it's all finished, then I'll start working the map properly. Is ETS2 coming to console? I highly doubt it. SCS have made no indication that they have any plans to do anything on console as far as American Truck Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator. Truck Driver is going to be a non-licensed version of that, so there won't be any official licensed trucks. It'll be off-brand stuff, made-up brands, but it will kind of replicate the ETS kind of experience. It'll have its own unique twists and flavours, but it will essentially be a console version of that type of game. And Mr. Water says Bus Simulator comes out in March next year. Again, that's just a placeholder date at this stage. We don't know if that's definitely going to come out in March. Truck Driver was supposed to be out by now, and that's been pushed back. So that may well get pushed back as well. I hope it comes out in March. I'm looking forward to playing Bus Simulator. That should be fun, especially with the wheel. And I'm going to be setting that up again in the next day or two. Aggravation would be nice on 19, says Donny. I know how much you loved that map. Yeah, again, I'm not, looking to work any of these crops or any of these fields at this stage. I'm literally just looking to experiment with terraforming and field sculpting. So we're looking to see how much we can improve the location, how much more we can get out of the map before we actually start turning it into a working farm. Brian says he's been playing Mudrunner this week. Great game, but very frustrating. It can be, depending on the map or the scenario that you're running. But I do like Mudrunner. It's a lot of fun. That's another kind of game you can just sit and relax while you're playing, and it's good for multiplayer as well. Whereas Farming Simulator, tends to be very laggy if you don't have a good connection. On Mudrunner, you only get visual lag; you don't get gameplay lag. So, if you don't have a strong connection with someone, then all you see is their truck judder. They don't get horrible input lag. If they're joining you, you don't get horrible input lag if you're joining them. You just see some juddery movements of their vehicles on the screen. That's it. That's so much better than the way Giants does it. Lewis has popped in the chat. How you doing? Car Mechanic Simulator coming to console next year. Again, that's another game that should have been out now, I think. That was due out a couple of days ago. It was supposed to be out either the 15th or the 17th of December. That's been delayed. So it's not unusual for games to get pushed back when they're coming to console for the first time, especially from guys that have done nothing but make simulators for PCs. Getting stuff onto console, it takes time when you've not done it before. It's a new operating system, it's a new way of coding, and it takes a while to iron out some of those kinks. And you can set a release date and try and hit it, but rather than releasing it with in an unplayable state, delaying a game is usually the best option. Am I going to be doing any more Felsburn Farm? Yes, in the next day or two, videos for that will start coming out again. I've just been taking a short break to mess around with the terraforming and to let the patch settle down after the issues with the 3K format for PS4 Pros. Alpha Rod's in the chat. How you doing? Am I getting the new train sim? When you say the new train sim, do you mean the upcoming DLC in January for Train Sim World? In which case, yes, I will be. I've been covering all of the DLCs so far, as well as the game itself. I'm going to be doing some more Long Island streaming over the next few days as well. Make a run back on that, and probably might do another run on West Somerset as well, in the build up to the Class 33 being released on the 8th of January. I'm still on my original settings. I'm still on the 3K settings with super sampling, because I don't have a 4K TV, and still using the same 60-degree field of vision. But the initial patch, kind of screwed up that resolution, and then the hot fix that came out a couple of days later has fixed that. Oh, hi there, Mad Dog. What's my City Skylines town look like now? I haven't played on that for a while, actually. Not since I recorded the footage for part 3 of my special project. I haven't really had time to do that, but I do plan on sitting down once I've caught back up with Felsbrunn and recording some more footage of that. I've got to actually get in there and make some changes and expand that town a bit more. I just haven't had the time to sit down with that one at the moment. But I will be going back to that and releasing some more footage probably around Christmas time. What are the settings for 4K? Well, 4K isn't available for Farming Sim 19 for some reason. They made Farming Sim 17 4K compatible, but not Farming Sim 19, at least not on consoles. So the best we can get is 3K, which is 1440p. If you have a 4K TV, you should still be able to play in that proper resolution. But if you don't have a 4K TV, you just have a 1080p TV like me, which is 2K, then you can use super sampling to render in 4K and then downsize it a little bit back to 1080p, and it just makes things a little bit crisper, a little bit sharper. It's not a massive improvement. You really need a better resolution monitor to get the best out of it. Can I do a Ravenport series? I thought about it, but I just don't enjoy Ravenport as a map. So I would be hard pressed to have any kind of enthusiasm for a series. I don't mind going on and jumping on that map every now and again, but in terms of trying to create a series for that map, I've got to have enthusiasm for the map itself, and for whatever reason, I just don't have it for Ravenport. I have too many issues with it. I just think there's so much about that map that could have been done better. And even with the terraforming tool, if you want a really good space to build a really big farm, you're still going to have to just rip up a whole load of fields, which I don't really want to do, because the only good fields are the ones that you'd have to rip up. So I do plan for a John Deere farm in the future. I'm not sure whether to do it on a European map, because the John Deere tractors in the game are, from what I've been told, more European models than American models. So that would make sense. But I don't know. I mean, there's the possibility of doing a John Deere farm on, say, Tombstone when that comes out on an American map there. I haven't decided yet. I want to see stuff come out first before I start making decisions on where the next series is going to be and what type of series it's going to be. I do like to run my theme farm, so there will be a John Deere farm at some point. I just don't know whether it's going to be the first themed Let's Play I do, or if it's going to be, you know, a little bit further down the line. I may possibly hold off until Seasons for John Deere farm. If you've got a 4K TV, Marcel, then yeah, then set your graphics to 3K for this game, and it will look crisper and sharper. This is essentially a slightly enhanced version of 1080p that I'm running, and then the stream itself is 720p, just to try and keep the image a bit more stable. So and cut down on the bandwidth usage a little bit, so it doesn't judder and break up. I mean, 1080p is fine. 1080p is standard high def, so it's going to look crisp and sharp. It's going to look a lot better in a higher resolution. So this area is almost ready for us to just kind of finish it off now. We've just got this lower section down here, and then we can work the edges. And then this field extension will be done. You can see there along the bottom, that area that needs to be ploughed. This is where it's going to get a little bit trickier, because we've got to create an entire edge from scratch rather than extending an edge. So the easiest way for us to do that is to start part way along, because otherwise the back of the plough is going to trail off and cut into ground I don't want cutting. So we start about here. Try and drive as straight a line as I can. So I don't step out. I don't mind stepping in, but I don't want to step out. Take this up to the corner as best I can. Yep, that's about it. Turn the plough, turn the tractor. And do the same on the opposite side. And there we go. We've created a complete edge all the way along. We just need to tidy it up a bit. I think I just missed a touch. Let's just try and tag that. Just next to the front track. There's a little tiny spot there of concrete, I think. There we go. Let's get rid of that. This is where a straight edge plough would be so much more beneficial. It's so much easier to do this bit. There we go. I should have looked to see if the train was going to hit me. Luckily it wasn't coming. I've had one brush with train death already today. I don't fancy another one. Has anyone had a go with horses yet? Asks Brian. I have had a little play with horses, but only just to kind of just try out the basic mechanics. I haven't run a horse ranch yet. I am looking to add one to Fellsbrunn. Not as a proper full-time kind of thing to do, because lots and lots of horses would just eat up so much time to make sure that they're all trained every day that it's, you know, it would become the sole focus. But to have one or maybe two horses at a time, train them up, make a little bit of money, get rid of them, replace them with new horses, and just do it one or two at a time, rather than trying to do 8 different horses all at once for a small pen, or however many it is for a large pen. It would just take up way too much time. You know, on the assumption that it takes just under 10 minutes to train each horse, that's over an hour of just riding around every day, every single game day. Over an hour of just riding around doing nothing. Yeah, it's a lot. It's just, you know, it's one thing for a private farm, but for a let's play, yeah, it's just it takes up so much time that you go, right, I want to start recording and I want to just mention that I'm going to go off and ride my horses, and then I can't touch the recorder for another hour until all that's done. It's just, you know, it adds way more time into each episode creation than I'm prepared to put in, because I already spend, as I say, 3 to 4 hours on average per episode in terms of recording time, and then another hour to an hour and a half of editing time on top of that. You know, so there's already 6 hours worth of work per episode, and I don't want to have to just throw another hour in there for the sake of throwing an hour in there. I'm not a dedicated farming sim channel. I like to mix up my content, which is why we've got City Skylines and Subnautica and Farm Sim and Railway Empire and Train Sim World and all those other games that I've looked at here and there as well, and all the ones that will be coming up as well, like Truck Driver when that comes out, and we've had Construction Simulator and Mudrunner. You know, all those games. If I was just a farming simulator dedicated channel, you wouldn't have seen any of that footage. And I know that some of you have used my channel as a kind of a springboard to see whether or not a game is worth getting, or if it's a game that you're interested in, you want to see how it plays. I know a number of people who watch my channel have since gone on and bought copies of City Skylines and Train Sim World and Mudrunner and Subnautica, having seen, you know, the game in action. And that's what I like to do. I like to show off a variety of different games rather than just the same thing over and over again, because you can start a new series, you can move on to a new map, but there comes a point when it's just the same thing over and over again. So if I did nothing but that, then I would get bored of it, and I'm pretty sure eventually you guys would get bored of it as well. Can we assign horses, helpers for horses? No, no, have to be ridden manually. Christian asks, "What's Mudrunner?" Well, it's an off-roading game. If you want to see some Mudrunner, I have plenty of Mudrunner footage up on the channel. So take the time to peruse through that and have a look. You can see the base game. You can see some of the DLC stuff that's been released in terms of free updates, and also the paid American Wilds expansion. And the game itself is now available into with the American Wilds built into it as well. So you can buy it as a complete package rather than buying the game and then the DLC separately. But yeah, I've got plenty of runs from Spintires on the channel, so if you're curious to know more about Spintires Mudrunner, then I do recommend checking those out. Alpha Roger says he thinks he's bought every game I've played except for Subnautica. Subnautica is fun. I'm really enjoying that. It's the first brand new game I've played in a long time that I've really, really enjoyed, just for the sake of playing it. I've absolutely loved my time on that, and hopefully that's coming across in the commentary on my videos. I am just really enjoying it so much. I haven't had that kind of joy of playing a brand new game for a while. I mean, I enjoy playing Railway Empire, and I enjoy the DLCs for that, but I approach those from a more of an analytical point, because I'm always looking to try and make very efficient railway routes. Same with City Skylines. I've always tried to make very functional cities. My project that I'm working on in bits and pieces here and there at the moment is a bit more freeform and trying to make something a bit more realistic in terms of the visual aesthetics, and not worrying so much about transport routes and zoning and stuff like that. Trying to just create something that feels more natural on that one, but it's time consuming, which is why it's a part-time series. But Subnautica, just to pick up and play, it's a joy. I'm loving it so much. I really am. So I highly recommend Subnautica. It's what, 25 quid brand new. I think it'll probably be on sale at some point in the future if you're still on the fence about it, but I do recommend it. It's a great game. Having so much fun with it. What is my favourite mod? Well, there aren't really any mods for Farming Sim 19 at the moment. The only Farming Sim mods that we have at the moment are the sheds, that are not provided by Giants themselves, are the shed pack and the fuel pump. I think that's it. I think they're the only user-created mods that we have so far, and everything else is stuff that Giants have provided, which are from Farming Sim 17 base game equipment, or DLC equipment, like the manure spreader, the Brochard manure spreader. That was part of the Big Bud DLC from Farming Sim 17. The IT runner pack is DLC from Farming Sim 15, as was the JCB stuff. Obviously there were base game bits of equipment in 17. I'm surprised we still haven't had the whole Matera variant yet. I'm still expecting that to make an appearance on the mod hub. I'm amazed that one hasn't come out yet. So for 19, you can't really say I have a favourite mod, because it's all Giant stuff. out of the sheds and the fuel pump. I don't know, maybe the fuel pump. It's, you know, it's like two mods to choose from, so it's not really much of a choice. On 17, I think Seasons, hands down, was my favourite mod, just because it completely changed the way you could play the game. But beyond that, if you take Seasons out of the equation, things like the Robot Xylor was great because it allowed you to get rid of trees with minimal fuss and effort. Some of the larger straight edge plows were great for, you know, recutting the edges of your fields. The camera collision mod. Yeah, God knows I've talked about camera collision mods a lot over the last couple of live streams. That was a great simple little mod. I love the For Real mods because they added a bit more realism with tire dirt and ground response and crop destruction. You know, those are all now part of the base game. So, I mean, there was way too many to just pick a favourite mod. Way too many. Right, so we need to clean these edges up now. So we want a very small painting tool. And I'm going to go grass this time, I think. That's exposing the concrete underneath the plough. I hadn't bargained on that, so I'm going to have to recut the edge of this field a bit, because the concrete is going to show through underneath. You can see it just, if we get close and have a look, you can just see the concrete texture underneath this area here showing through, and I didn't want that, so I'll have to recut the width of the field a little bit so that I don't have that bit of concrete showing underneath. If I'd thought about that a bit more, then I would probably have done the border with grass instead. Again, look, you can see we've got that concrete texture showing underneath. So I'll cut this section off as well, and then we'll recut the edges to get rid of that, so we don't get that bleed through underneath when we plough or cultivate. Which means I'm going to have to take a section off this side of the field as well. Let's go with a slightly bigger tool this time. That's a little bit too big. There we go. That should do it. Oops. It doesn't matter if I do that, I suppose, because I'm going to be recutting this border anyway. I just have to be cutting a little bit more than I had initially intended. Let's try and straighten the camera up a bit. There we go. Just drifting ever so slightly. Come up to the top, clean this edge up. get rid of that little bit of dirt there as well. Like that. Oh, I forgot to extend on this side. Okay, we can fix that. Let's continue cleaning up this edge. Straighten the camera. I'll come back and get those little bits in a second. I suppose it would be nicer if we could go one step smaller on these tools, just so we could take out 1 or 2 furrows rather than taking out, you know, potentially a lot more. But generally, I'm pretty happy with the tool size selection. They seem to work very well. Just trying to remove as little grass as possible while I'm doing this. There we go. So I just need to recut these edges ever so slightly now. Where is my plough? There it is. So once again, we're going to pull forward a little bit. Find a furrow and try and stick to it. Yeah, it's about far forward enough. Hopefully we can stay in a straight line. Already I'm getting pulled off to the right again. To make all these constant little twitches and corrections to stop that from happening. And there we go, see, we stepped out. That's what I was trying to avoid. It's really frustrating when you're trying to cut a clean straight edge like that. I kind of use my wheel tracks as a guideline here on the edge of the original furrows. Trying to step back in very gradually. I don't want to make sharp, sudden correctional movements, because that'll translate into how the plough reacts at the front. So far so good. Keeping it pretty clean and tidy. There we go. Right, is the plough lifted? Yes, it is. Good. Don't want to drive off and just carve through this section of grass here after all that painstaking effort to try and be neat and tidy. This edge is nice and okay. This edge is going to need to be extended slightly as well. So again, let's try and find the furrow. Try and stay straight. I'll take another look at the chat questions when I've done this line. I can't look away. I need to make sure I'm staying in a straight line, so I can't check your comments right now, but I will do in just a moment. It's guaranteed I'm going to look away and I'm going to either drift way into the field or more likely way off the field and start carving up ground I don't want to touch. How far we got to go? Oh, a little way yet. Nearly done. Just a little bit more. Fighting this all the way. Oh, I forgot I need to do a thicker line on the base here as well. I could have gone up a bit further. Never mind. Alright, at least the train's gone through, so I don't have to worry about getting clipped by the train. But let's take a look at the chat. Are the rules strict for modders to send to Giants for publication? Stricter for consoles than they are for PC, yes. There's scripting and licensing regulations that are not in place for PC, partly through system limitations, partly through enforced regulations from Sony and Microsoft about third-party stuff and licensing issues. So yeah, and because stuff has to be released on the mod hub for consoles, then it has to go through Giants standards, which not always, but are usually higher than just a private release where someone can just release something in a particular state and then just continually tweak it and work it, and you'll see quite a few mod maps that do get released change very substantially, and you get multiple versions of the same map where fields are changed and locations of buildings are changed. It's basically people who play maps like that, they generally are beta testing the map, and it's continually being changed and updated and tweaked to fix problems and change things around, and Giants don't like that. You have to have a finished mod, so you can't release something in an unfinished state. You know, it has to work the way it's intended. You can't make significant changes on a regular basis. You know, that just otherwise it won't go on the mod hub. And if it doesn't go on the mod hub, it doesn't come to console. Clean this edge off a bit more as well. Undo some of that grass painting that we did. Oh, I got a little bit too wide. I have to dial that back in a touch. Take that to there. That looks to be about right. Now we need to turn the plough. People were saying that the Joskin 3-point tipper and the snowblower were some of their favourite mods. I liked the snowblower, but you know, I only really used it for its intended purpose, which was blowing snow. A lot of people tended to use it for anything but snow. You know, for silage, for manure, for for straw off fields, and you know, yeah, that was never, I think, its initially intended use. And it's just not something that appealed to me, which is why I never really used it that much. Plus, you know, depending on the geo that you're using when you're playing with seasons, you might not get snow, or if you do get snow, you might not get much of it. There might not be a need for the snowblower. It depends how you approach the series as well. With Lone Oak, I got very little snow at all, and it didn't really impact me because you don't work the fields over winter. You know, I was driving around, I was doing land deals to acquire more land ready for the spring. I was selling crops, and that was about it. You know, the roads were always clear. So, never needed a snowblower. Just want to tweak that corner slightly. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist at times, not always, but sometimes. If I see something that needs to be, just tweaked a little bit, like this corner here, I have to deal with it. I can't just leave it and go, it's fine, because in my head it's not fine. It needs to be cleaned up. It doesn't have to be a perfectly square edge, but it can't be a really rough, ugly edge like that. You know, a tiny little bobble like that, that for me is acceptable. But as it was before, not at all. It would have driven me nuts every time I was working this field. Oh, I folded it and not turned it. Jaforge says he thinks grass should regrow regardless. That's how it used to work when using the roller in Farming Sim 15. You couldn't remove fields the way you can now. It was a very different way of working. You know, you would paint over the field with native grass, essentially, when you used the roller on Farming Sim 15. Obviously, that's changed for 17 and has carried across into 19, where we have a default texture underneath, and that's what you see. So if it's a brown ground texture underneath, that's what you'll see when you use the roller. If it's grass and you've got a green texture underneath the grass, then all you'll see is the green texture, not the grass, when you roll over it. But for Farming Sim 15, it was very, very different. You know, it just deleted the field and put in native grass, and I kind of missed that. I wish we had an option for either way of doing it. Nuts. Just stepped over the edge slightly. Ah, dear. And again, I need to tidy the corner ever so slightly. There we go, that's better. This corner needs quite a bit of work. There we go. I think, not 100%, but I think this field is finished. Just got a little patch here I'm unsure about, so I'm just going to quickly dab this corner with the plough. There we go. I think I might need to just clean this corner up a little bit as well. We'll check. And then we can use the tool to just get rid of those slight outsteps that we made. And we'll have a nice, clean, very much extended field 9. All looking good so far. Alright, that corner was done. Okay, so let's get the tool out. Let's find those little spots that need to be tweaked. All looking okay over here. A little bit there. Make my way down this edge. All looking okay there. And check the back. I can see a little bit in front of me. Just here. There we go. So, that's before. That's after. A big change to field 9. Much bigger. Much wider as well. And that is where we're going to call it a day. We've streamed for a good couple of hours at least. I think possibly pushing 3 hours. And we've done quite a bit in terms of reshaping, resculpting, and painting and terraforming as well. So a nice place for us to end this particular stream. So thanks for everyone who has tuned in. If you did have questions and I didn't answer them, I apologise. I can only have one set of eyeballs, and I can't keep a permanent eye on the chat and the ploughing at the same time. But I will try and respond, where I can. Don't forget, you can always leave comments on normal videos, and I read every single one of those and reply to those where I can as well. So, yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll be back with some more terraforming at some point soon. some more Felsbrunn in the next couple of days, some more Subnautica tomorrow, and the start of Railway Empire, Great Britain and Ireland tomorrow as well. Take it easy. Bye for now.